What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Crew podcast featuring myself, Josh Fan, Lucas Murphy from the Beat of KC, and Michael Darcy from KC Sports Report. Guys, say what's up.
What's going on?
What's up, everybody?
It's good to be back. I can't believe that the third and final preseason game is already tomorrow. We are getting really close to regular season football now, and training camp and the offseason and everything has just gone by so quickly already. But we want to preview the Chiefs versus Vikings preseason game with you guys. This is going to be probably the most important game of the preseason. But I want to start off with an interesting question for you guys, because this has kind of been a debate going on Twitter and stuff recently I've seen. So obviously there's a couple week period in between this last preseason game and when the regular season starts. And from my understanding, people are worried that the Chiefs might have a little bit too much time off before that Browns game in the opener. So a lot of people are saying, oh, well, then maybe in that case, the Chiefs should play their starters a little bit longer in this third preseason game, especially because, I mean, this offensive line probably needs to play a little bit more together. Patrick needs to play a little bit more with this new offensive line. There's a lot of new moving parts of this team that probably need more time to gel together, and I can understand that. But I want to hear from you guys what your thoughts are on that. Do you think Andy Reid needs to play his starters as much as he can in this game without pushing it, or are we putting a little too much stock into that in the time off between now and the Browns game? Lucas, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go ahead and treat it as if it's kind of like Andy coming off of a bye week, and we know the success that Andy has coming off of a bye week. I think it's very significant to get some guys that are not necessarily fully injured, but have kind of had these lingering issues. I look forward to those becoming fully healthy. Guys like Darrell Williams, who was in concussion protocol, even though he's out of it, you're still giving him extra time to fully recover. So those are the types of things that I'm glad we have this little stretch. So then we can go into that first game, hopefully fully functioning, a well-oiled machine ready to roll.
Yeah. I do think it's also important, a guy that you didn't actually mention. I think Clyde is going to play in this game. I haven't seen anything ruling him out. And I also think that he was practicing earlier this week, so they might keep him out a little bit for just for good measure. But I think he's going to get to play a little bit. The offensive line does need a little bit more. Well, the starting offensive line needs more reps together, I think. Pat didn't look great in the last preseason game, but I also think that that's something they can correct in practice too. You don't really necessarily need to go up against live competition to get back on track with your receivers. But I do think it's going to be interesting. I'll be at this preseason game, so I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm glad they're not resting their starters. But I think this is also a situation in which you could see Patrick Mahomes play a couple drives and then he just sits out. But guys like the starting offensive line or Kelsey or the running backs, they do actually get a significant chunk of the 2 quarters.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how much the starters play, but I think what I'm more looking forward to is a lot of these roster bubble guys and the second, third, and fourth stringers that are making that final push for a roster spot. Some of these guys are going to have to really show out if they hope to make the roster, and then there's other guys that I think will probably just be putting tape out there so that maybe they are giving themselves, they're boosting their value. So other teams maybe say, hey, Chiefs, we'll give you a 6th round pick for this guy that we like on your roster, that if he's not going to make it, we'll take him. And I want to get more into some players that may be the case with here in a second. But one horse that we've kind of beaten to death lately is Demarcus Robinson and whether or not he's on the roster bubble. Now, I know we kind of all gave our thoughts on that, but then, and I'm sure you guys saw this, but Dave Tobe came out the other day after we recorded that last episode and absolutely unloaded on Demarcus Robinson. And I made a video on it. I'm not sure if you guys caught that yet, but I gave my thoughts. and I'll kind of rehash that in a minute, but I definitely want to hear from you guys. So, Lucas, do you think these comments from Tobe are significant? Is DeMarcus really in trouble here?
My only thoughts are if, and I kind of talked about this with Kyle Henning, is basically I think the scenario for DeMarcus is if a true elite number 2 finds its way to the cut and ends up becoming a free agent, I think that is how DeMarcus would end up off this team. Outside of that, I think DeMarcus is on this team. I think I'm starting to buy in that Cornell Powell is not going to be on this team.
Really? Interesting.
And I think that they're going to see if he has the potential to make it to the practice squad, but if he goes, he goes. And I think it just shows you that the Chiefs are finally at a point where they feel comfortable with their team. And if one of their draft picks doesn't pan out then that year, then they're okay with cutting them. We talked about Russell. I mean, they cut Russell from Notre Dame back when that first happened, and he just could not figure out the playbook, and he was gone. So I do believe that if there is a good second, receiver that they feel is a second receiver pops up on the free agent market, I think that DeMarcus would be gone. But outside of that, I think he's on the team.
I think he makes the team. I love the comments, by the way, though. Dave Tobe, he said what we all thought, but we hadn't heard that from anyone in the organization. We've only heard Andy Reid praise Demarcus Robinson when he's still making knuckleheaded plays. So I was really refreshed to see Dave Tobe just unload on him, but he's going to make the team. I wish that he wouldn't. I think Cornell Powell deserves more of a shot than Demarcus Robinson, because at least Cornell Powell is going to do more things right. He's going to listen to the coaches. Demarcus Robinson clearly isn't. And I said this on a tweet. Demarcus Robinson is very privileged. Could you imagine? I'm going to ask this question to both of you guys. You're head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. Demarcus Robinson or Byron Pringle, or let's say Doris Fountain, they want to make the team, but they want to do it their way. Are they making the team?
That's,
you can't just go rogue.
I think to some degree. I think in all honesty, Robinson has built up at least some credibility. He has shown some connection, so I think that where you can see that rogueness going on. I don't think that Fountain, because Fountain hasn't been truly, and I'm not saying Robinson has been a productive receiver, but he's definitely participated and put in at least, I would say, enough to assist in us winning the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, Fountain doesn't have enough credibility to his name to keep him here.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of try my best to summarize what I said in about my 10-minute long or so video talking about this whole ordeal. Now, one, I appreciate Tobe coming out and saying that, because like Michael said, that's what we all have been saying for a long time now. But also, it's very, very rare for the Chiefs coaching staff to tear down one of their guys like that. And I'm not sure whether to take that as they are keeping Robinson, but they say that because the relationship is so good that they don't have to worry about Robinson. I don't know. How would I put it? Like taking it to heart and like completely breaking down his player. Like the Chiefs don't seem like the kind of organization to, throw a player under the bus like that and then release him on top of it. I don't think they go about things that way. So I do think Demarcus Robinson will stay. But what I will say is that Robinson, again, I hear a lot of Chiefs media still, they say, oh, he's a reliable receiver. You can count on him, but you can count on him. I do not understand where we are getting that from. I think there are 3 or 4 more guys on this roster currently pre-cut down day that can give you what Demarcus Robinson can give you. That said, I really thought about what Lucas said in our last episode, and you saw how much McColl messed up. And I think that's what keeps Robinson on this roster is that, look, I will hesitate to call Robinson stable, but he's
at least you know what you're gonna get.
That's what I said. Like that's what I said in my video. Like he's a guy, he's just a guy, but the Chiefs would rather keep a guy than lose a guy because they don't have a lot of guys right now. They have a lot of Darius Fountain and Marcus Kemps who may or may not be something, but they haven't shown that they can be there a whole season for you in the NFL and be somewhat productive. Robinson has, and he has frustrating moments, probably more frustrating moments than good moments, but his good moments are, really good too. I mean, that one-handed catch in the Ravens game a couple years ago, and then when he absolutely went off against the Raiders that one time when Tyreek was out. I mean, he gives you a little bit of something, but I do get a little tired of people acting like he's this irreplaceable receiver that the Chiefs just can't get rid of. But there's two sides to that argument.
I mean, I want to see the Chiefs succeed this year, and if they feel like Demarcus Robinson being on this team will help that, go ahead by doing that. But I also just think that Demarcus Robinson, and this is kind of my mentality with all players. It's not even relegated to this sport. It goes the same with baseball for me. If you crack under the pressure of being criticized, I don't want you on the team. Like, genuinely, I think if you can't take the criticism of, hey, do it this way. Like, everyone's telling you to do it this way. And if you fold after getting called out, I don't want you on the team. And I think that I was thinking about this as you were talking. Demarcus Robinson would be a great returner if he just ran forward. I mean, the dude has some length to him. He's got some speed. Just run forward. You don't have to run sideways. I mean, even Mecole Hardman, when he runs sideways, gets tackled the majority of the time behind where he should have. Well, I guess he runs sideways and he gets tackled before getting any major yardage. But Tyreek Hill's the only dude that can get away with that. And even him, he got taken off. Well, he got taken off of special teams because he's too valuable. But even him, he got tackled in the backfield a couple times.
Well, and I mean, we know Tyreek has been known to run backwards too. I mean, and that's I get it, and I don't know, like we're seeing kind of some behind the scenes when you're talking a little bit of the franchise, and we're seeing some stuff, some clips too, where Dave Toub has told these guys in the preseason to run it out no matter what. So what is he telling them in the regular season? Not necessarily from the run it out standpoint, but like, hey, do what you guys got to do to gain some yards, or let's see what you got type of thing. Like, I'm just curious to know like what that conversation's like, because I can't imagine you would just naturally think, okay, I'm going to run backwards to then run forwards like 5 yards. Like, I just don't see the logic in that. So, I'd be interested to see those conversations for sure.
I do think Dave Toub gives them a little too much freedom sometimes, which is also why it was surprising to hear him come out and call out D-Rob like that, because I kind of feel like Toub enables him a little bit, and he did the same thing with Hardman. I don't think Hardman was nothing special, but he wasn't as bad as Robinson on returns. Like, I remember reading Robinson has like a career -7 yard average per return, which is pretty bad, obviously.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
But Toub, like, I get frustrated with him because he continually gives these guys opportunities on special teams to return, and they make really boneheaded decisions. They return all the way out of the back of the end zone when they had no shot. They fair catch at the 10-yard line. Like, what the heck is he thinking? I don't know.
Yeah, that's, and I kind of wonder, I truly wonder though, is Andy, like, is Dave Toub one of Andy's like true guys? Like, I mean, we saw there for a stretch where Dave Toub had a really good special teams. I mean, we were kind of pretty solid, and since then it's kind of trickled off. And is Toub just one of Andy's guys where maybe he's like hesitant on like talking to him, or like, hey, what the hell's going on type of thing? I'd just be curious.
Andy's always had an abundance of trust in his coordinators, and I don't think this is going to change at all. Like, you see the trust that he has in Toub. I don't know if I've ever seen him on the sideline. I mean, obviously he has, but like when they pan over to him, I never see Andy Reid talking to Dave Toub on the sideline. I could be wrong, but
Andy, I think it is. He just puts too much trust in these guys. He's too loyal, because I truly believe that firing Bob Sutton back after 2018 was a Brett Veach decision. I think if Brett Veach didn't step in and say, hey, we've got to make a change on defense, Andy Reid wouldn't have touched it. He would have left Bob Sutton there. I truly think that.
That's crazy.
Did it ever come out that Veach stepped in?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but I do think it was. I mean, I'm sure all of them were in a room together and they came to the conclusion that Sutton wasn't the guy and he had to go. But I think if Veach hadn't said anything, well, Reid wouldn't have said anything either. He just would have left it alone.
Yeah. Yikes.
But yeah, we've gone on too long about D-Rob and special teams, so I want to shift back to this preseason game and what the focus is. So obviously there's a lot of guys that are on the bubble, and this is their last shot. And I kind of want to hear from you guys, who's someone that is truly on the bubble, and I mean truly on the bubble. It's got to show out this game. I think we have a pretty good idea of who's leaning towards making the roster, not making the roster, but then there's a couple guys out there that I think it really is a true toss-up that they got to show something this game. I want to put you guys on the spot and hear from you. Who's your guy that you think's got to have a good game or else they're out of here? Michael, we'll start with you.
The guy that initially jumped out when you asked that question is Marcus Kemp. I think Marcus Kemp is fighting with Maurice Fountain to make that 6 wide receiver job. I wrote an article about it. I saw it. I do think Fountain's going to win that job, though. I think Kemp's good on special teams, but Fountain's also all right on special teams. I mean, Fountain's not bad on special teams. It's just Kemp is so good that it makes Fountain look a little bit less superior. So I think Kemp is a guy that's on the bubble. I want to say Darwin Thompson's on the bubble as well. You know, you could say that he showed out in the second preseason game, which I get that. But we've talked about this in the past. It's just where is the roster spots going to give? If you're going to carry 4 tight ends, you really can't carry 4 running backs. You know what I mean? Somewhere it's got to give. Maybe Jody Fortson's on the bubble. I'm not too sure. Or Blake Bell could be as well. I mean, it's just there's so many different positions in which you have so much depth that are you going to be able to carry that many? So Blake Bell's a guy that could be on the bubble. Or you guys say he is. I don't think Cornell Powell's on the bubble. I think he's making this team. But I guess I would say Darwin Thompson, Marcus Kemp, and Blake Bell.
Yeah, what do you think, Lucas?
I got a question for you guys so then I can give my answer.
All right.
How many offensive linemen do you think make this team?
10.
So that means someone's got to go. I think I'm not going to pick a specific player because I think but I'm going to go with someone significant from this offensive line is going to be gone. And I think it's just because of the competitive nature. We can't keep 12 to 15 offensive linemen. It's not possible to be able to fill a roster. So someone significant from this offensive line, I think, is going to end up going.
I'm going to pose a question. Can I pose a question real quick? I'm going to pose a question right now.
Yeah.
Laurent Duvernay-Tardif or Jody Fortson? Go. Who's more important? Who's staying on the team?
Fortson.
Really?
I'd rather have Fortson, but it's an interesting question because LDT in particular, I mentioned it before, is someone that you do not benefit from cutting because he gives you 0 cap savings, and it's only if you truly need the roster spot somewhere else because, like you said before, Michael, offensive line is the last position where you're going to see cuts, especially for a guy like LDT who's a fully capable backup. I think Wiley would get cut before LDT, and I think Wiley's staying as well.
Prince Ortega, or not Prince Ortega Whites. I don't even know. Combining names there.
Tagawangu.
He's gone. I think Yasir Durant's gone. But I can't see them cutting on the offensive line. I could be wrong. I think that tight end's a position where they're probably going to have to shave down to 3. Maybe they carry 4. We talked about the Rhino package, and I saw it at training camp. It's a Rhino package where they run 3 tight ends. But I also don't think that Rhino package is going to be their standard offensive formation. That's going to be a special thing. So I still think they're going to run their two RB sets and obviously 3 or 4 receivers, not including Travis Kelce. But I can't see them like carrying 4 tight ends just because that's exactly what they're going to run 95% of the time. I don't know where you stand on that, but I think that Rhino's going to be more of a specialty accommodation than like frequently used.
I gotta say, well, so like I still think they'll be able to run Rhino even if they don't have, like, let's say at some point next season there's only like 2 tight ends available. They'll find some way to run something similar to Rhino. It'll just be with maybe a bigger receiver or an extra lineman or something, whatever they want to do. But I will say, now that we're kind of getting more into tight end talk and stuff, I think someone that we always thought was a shoo-in just because Reid loves him and everything, Blake Bell. I'm starting to wonder, if Jody keeps showing these improvements, especially in the blocking area, if they're like, Blake, Jody does everything you can do and more. We're just going to get rid of you. I'm truly starting to wonder.
Well, and you can't send Jody Fortson to the practice squad. I think his eligibility's done. So,
well, here's the thing, and Lucas has mentioned it before too. If you let Jody go one more time, he's not coming back. Someone else will grab him.
I think all 4 make the roster. I think Blake Bell provides you a professionalism in when it comes to a running game where some of those other ones are developing in that aspect where Blake Bell is going to be out there. Plus, who's to say you don't put Blake Bell out there? And in the mindset, people are like, oh, Blake's out here to block. He runs a quick slant or something and catches a 5-yard pass. So I think the versatility of every one of these tight ends, because the same could go for Fortson, the same goes for Kelce and Noah Gray. They may be out there to look like they're running routes, but they're blocking, and I think that's something that's significant in this offense, and that's why I think all 4 make it. Another reason is because I think Fortson has the ability to play, and this was very touched on by Andy Reid in his press conference. Fortson has been able to play receiver, go to tight end, back to receiver, back to tight end. So he has the ability to play receiver. So who's to say he's not out there as your 2 at some point? Not the whole time, but it could be out there as your 2 at some point just to go run a route as the 2.
I will say that I do think Jody Fortson is in. I think he's making the roster because Tobe praised him and how far he's come on special teams. And even Andy Reid threw some praise at him. I think this truly is the year of Jody Fortson. So I definitely think he's in. I don't think he's a bubble guy anymore, but shifting kind of to receiver and Cornell Powell again, I'm going to stick with what I said, and I'm going to be kind of on this with Lucas. He's got to show something this game. I think he's one of my players that's going to be truly on the bubble, toss up 50-50. I have no idea. Like, he has to show something. Like, at this point, we're banking on upside with Powell, but I mean, he's just got to show something in this next game. He has to. I mean, 3 catches for like 25 yards in preseason isn't going to have you make this team. And I get he's a new draft pick and he's essentially a baby still in this league. And it's hard to just give up and pull a plug on a guy like that this early, but we've seen it before. Early draft picks not make this team. And the Chiefs has shown a willingness, I think, to cut guys loose that they think they have guys better, even if they are still young. Like even though I didn't think Breeland Speaks was going to be anything, I was still kind of surprised when they let him go when he was supposedly in shape and everything like that. I was surprised to see that they let Taco go. If you kind of get what I'm saying, I just am struggling to see how you could justify giving Cornell Powell a spot on the roster over a guy like Kemp, over a guy like Fountain. I don't know. I think he'll probably go to the practice squad, if anything.
Really quickly, did Bo Peep Keys make the active roster last year, or did he make the practice squad?
Practice squad.
Okay.
I think that when it comes down to it too, I think that they would address the cornerback spot before they would address the receiver spot. So, like, I think if it's truly if they need that extra corner, I think that would be a consideration to see Powell off this team because they're like, hey, we might need that extra corner. If you go back and watch my draft video on Cornell Powell, I was extremely high on him. But when you got guys,
yeah, we all were.
I mean, but when you got guys that are coming out and competing like Fountain and showing out, and you got maybe Powell, do we know that he can play special teams? I haven't seen him out there. I mean, I've been trying to pay attention to that, but I don't know if he has. Where Fountain was doing that. You definitely know Marcus Kemp is special at that. So is that where Kemp has a leg up on Powell, and like that would be his chance to make this roster? It's like he's in the shadows, and like instead of like you just said, if he doesn't show out or we don't see anything, I think that's significant, and that's writing on the wall.
See, I'm almost a little bit disappointed because I was at training camp like 7 or 8 days, and the dude didn't get targeted that often. Like Noah Gray got the go ahead, and he got the reps, and so did our right guard in Trey Smith, and we saw a lot of the rookies get snaps, and Cornell Powell never got those opportunities, and maybe that's because the front office and Andy Reid didn't think he was ready, and that's a very big possibility, but I just don't feel like he got a fair chance, and I feel like, and I could be wrong, and I guess I am being proven wrong because Byron Pringle's up, Doris Fountain has a chance to make the team, Marcus Kemp could make this team, but I kind of feel like for a young player going to the practice squad, getting drafted as high, he wasn't even drafted highly, but he was drafted. And I feel like getting sent to the practice squad, talk about killing a player's morale. I mean, I think that could be the end of Cornell Powell. Like, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be that guy, but like, how many guys get sent to the practice squad and we never hear about them again?
A lot, but that's also apparent with just late round picks in general. How many of them get picked in the late round, and every fan of every team is saying, "Oh, my team's draft pick was a steal." Everyone loves to say they got the steal of the draft with basically all of their later round picks because you want to like them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the reality is that most of these late round picks, hardly any of them ever pan out to be much of anything in this league. Hardly any of them ever stay with their team beyond their rookie contract. That's just the reality. And maybe we're just overhyping Powell, and Powell is someone that maybe hit his ceiling in college. I don't know, but I don't think he's earned a roster spot. And I still think he has potential and he has room to grow, and maybe more time with the team will help him and everything. But that's going to have to come on the practice squad for him, in my opinion.
I mean, I started kind of really sitting back and thinking about this. He went to Clemson. Clemson obviously has been an elite program since he's at least been there, and he wasn't even like one of their go-to targets there. So
he was their 3.
I mean, so that tells me that, and it's not necessarily a question of his ability. It's just there's something going on there that isn't pushing him to that next step. And I think the Chiefs are seeing that now. And it's not that they don't believe he can't because they drafted him. I just think that there is something, whether it's players ahead of him are performing better and are understanding a little bit more of what is expected. I think that's truly what's just going into it. And I don't think that they believe he's a bad player. That's why they're probably going to try to stash him. But I think somebody else picks him up. I think, and that's kind of where I was leading to. I think with the Kansas City Chiefs, they're going to have to make a cut where we know someone else is going to go somewhere and they're going to play and start potentially. And that's just when you have a good football team that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's called getting processed. That's just what happens.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I was excited about Powell, and I'm still looking forward to his progression, whether it is or is not on the Kansas City Chiefs.
I agree.
We talk about it all the time. Receiver is a position that just has a plethora of guys that can be productive for you, young and old, tall and short. And there's just so many guys out there that I think can probably do what Powell can do. And there's more important positions on the team that the Chiefs got to worry about, and having roster spots for certain guys that Powell is just probably going to be a victim of the numbers game.
I saw the other day on Twitter, someone tweeted at Golden Tate and was like, basically come to the Chiefs or whatever. And he liked it. And it's like, just to think like that dude's sitting out there. I mean, he probably would be commanding a little bit more money, but to think that those types of guys are sitting out there, that's where I'm like, it wouldn't be hard for them to pick up a lot of the basic fundamentals. I mean, they've been doing it for a while. And
No, it happened again. He's gone. He's gone. Guys, Lucas just dropped
never
out.
fails to amaze. Never fails.
It's okay. We're going to add him back in. He's already here.
Lucas! We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Yeah, now we can't hear him.
Man, I love this podcast. We still
It's
can't
a tradition. Oh, poor guy.
You're on mute. Still can't hear you.
All right, well, we'll give Lucas a second. What was Lucas even talking about? I don't remember.
I blacked out. What were we even talking about?
Receiver, something. Oh, he's talking about Golden Tate. That's right. Yeah, Golden Tate. I would love him, actually, because even though he's on the older side, he just always is open. And having someone that's always open for Patrick Mahomes is music to my ears.
Yeah. Lucas, we still can't hear you, buddy.
As long as they can get open and catch. Now he's doing sign language. At least I think it's sign language.
Okay, there he's going again. I don't know. I think wasn't Golden Tate a guy that dropped a lot of passes? I could be wrong.
I would have to go back and look, but as long as he can catch and he gets open, I would be more than happy to bring him in.
I don't think he gets brought in, though. At this point, it's too late.
No, I don't either. I think if they wanted to, they would have done it. But I won't roll out. It might not be Golden Tate, but I wouldn't rule out the possibility of them bringing in a veteran receiver, especially seeing the rockiness, I think, of this receiver core throughout preseason so far. I think there's been some highs and some lows, and maybe they look for a veteran, maybe someone that's cut from another team.
Cough twice if you can hear us, Lucas. Let's go.
There we go.
He's back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
I'm
Lucas.
back.
I pretty much finished that whole thought on Golden Tate, but I was talking about how maybe it might not be Golden Tate, but there's still a veteran out there from another team that will get cut that maybe they look at. Would you probably agree with that?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the biggest spot because originally I was thinking running back. Like ideally I was thinking with Clyde kind of having that ankle injury and it really not being significant, but there is that chance that it could hinder him again. Darrell Williams going down in concussion protocol. At one point, your starters were Jerick McKinnon, Darwin Thompson, and Gore. So is that really something you want to be putting out? And so I started thinking, like, could they address the running back position at some point just because of an injury that could happen? And that's where I think they might try to stash either Darwin or Gore on the practice squad.
Probably Gore.
And then maybe sign a veteran maybe. I mean, I just think that there is a need potentially for another running back.
I think there's always going to be veteran running backs out there, and there's going to be a lot of guys that are available now that are still going to be available like week 6 of the season if they really need a guy. So I think that running back is a position they won't be urgent to address right now. And I do think they'll probably stash someone on the practice squad. Talking about running back though, since we are, Darwin Thompson, I feel like is a guy that in this game will be playing for another team. I think Darwin Thompson has shown, we've been frustrated with him, but he's shown enough, I think, that another team might like his upside and maybe give us a pick or something for him. What do you guys think?
That'd be fantastic. I mean, it'd probably be like a 7th, maybe a 7th, 6th, 7th. I honestly think that maybe he's a bubble dude. Maybe he could make the team if they aren't confident in how Darrell is coming back from his concussion and if Clyde's a serious injury risk going forward. But like, yeah, he's on the bubble to get cut. Because you don't think he's going to make the practice squad, right? Someone pick him up.
I think they would probably go with Gore over him because I think Gore has more upside. But maybe maybe I'm too high on him just because of his last game, and that's just kind of a knee-jerk reaction. But I don't know. Like I've had time to process it, and there's been several times now with Darwin on this roster that there was an opportunity for him to play, and they would go out and sign another veteran like LeVeon that would just keep him down the depth chart. And it's like, I don't know, like there's been times where Darwin Thompson, that would have been an opportunity for him to play, and the Chiefs never gave him a shot. And I think like they just shown that they don't want him here. So I mean,
well, hold on. The thing with Darwin Thompson, unlike Cornell Powell, if we're gonna say that Cornell Powell goes to the practice squad, Darwin Thompson's had an opportunity in the NFL. He has. He's gotten a chance, albeit not a great one, but he's gotten to touch the field in an NFL game. He scored an NFL touchdown, and I think it was against the Bills. He fumbled the ball. He's played in some games, and he hasn't done anything. Like, that's just kind of the shot that I wish Powell would get. You know what I mean?
My hot take is Darwin makes this team.
Wow.
I have this weird inclination that they might keep him around and stash Gore on the practice squad.
I'd be a fan of that too.
And I think that there's a chance you might see that's my hot take. I think you might see Darwin stay on this team.
Well, you know what? I'd be happy with that too, because I am still a Darwin guy. I always will be a Darwin guy because of reasons I mentioned on this show before. And I do think that if you give him some carries to get going, that he can be a decent running back in this league, which is why I say if he doesn't make the Chiefs, I think someone else will have interest in him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, it's going to be very interesting. That's what's so significant about only having 3 preseason games, in my opinion, because I think going into this game, they know who are like those final bubble candidates, and are they really evaluating them to the point in this last one, or are they like, hey, we know? And the reason I say that is because I started thinking today, they unveiled the new locker room. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was pretty sweet. But
that looks awesome.
Yeah, they unveiled this new locker room, and it's like, are you really going to have a guy who may not make this squad get all his crap unloaded into his locker just to be like a week later, like Tuesday, because it's Tuesday, to get your stuff out? I don't know.
The NFL's ruthless, dude. They do it.
Get your stuff, get it in a trash bag, and get out of here.
I heard that there was a dude that would gather the players' belongings in a garbage bag, and they would meet him in the parking lot, basically. Like, they wouldn't even let him back in the facility. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, speaking of that new locker room, it is nice to see, because that other one was pretty outdated. And I know a lot of people, I wanted to touch on this real quick, because I know a lot of people are always like, how come in college that they got all these nice facilities for the players and everything, and they get to the NFL, and then it's just like, meh. Well, that's because those colleges, those players aren't getting paid, and these $1 million institutions are convincing high school kids to come play for them, whereas in the NFL, you're already getting paid millions to play football, so you're not going to get all the bells and whistles that the college
kids do. Because the NCAA is literally making hundreds of millions of dollars, and they have all the money in the world.
They don't have to pay the players. Yeah. But no, where were we before that?
Players on the bubble.
Yeah. Who were we talking about specifically? Because I'm just totally drawing a blank right now.
We were talking about Darwin Thompson. I think I'm with Lucas. I think Darwin's going to squeak out a role on this team. I think he's going to make the team. I could be wrong, but I have that weird feeling that he's going to get a chance, because, like, we've talked about this before. Darwin Thompson is a really hard worker, and I think Andy Reid sees that. But like okay, well, let me ask you this question. Do you think Jody Fortson is a bubble guy?
No, like I said a little while ago, I think he's in now, especially with Tobe and Reed's comments the other day about the strides that he's taken. I think he's in.
So would you be floored if he just didn't make the team?
Not only would I be floored, but I'd also be showing up to Arrowhead with a pitchfork.
Hey, it's Yeehaw Field at Arrowhead now. Get it correct.
Yeehaw!
I'd be showing up there with a pitchfork and a torch. That's for sure.
See, this is me personally. I think if they cut him, it will be like one of those moments like, what the H? But I think I'd be able to settle in and understand at least to okay, because here's my propose to you, Josh. Would you rather keep a Jody Fortson or a Fountain?
He
out of here.
I think he's gonna say Jody Fortson. Is he gone?
Technology at its
Oh my
finest.
gosh, the coffee.
Screenshot.
Oh my
Sorry, I had
goodness.
my mic was going bad, so I had to unplug it and plug it back in. Therefore,
We need to change the podcast name to just like technologically struggling.
Technical difficulties is our new pod name. Oh
yeah,
my
no.
gosh.
So I'll just go from there. Nah, if it's between Jody Fortson and Darius Fountain, oh, that is tough. But Jody's my guy, so I'm gonna have to go with Jody Fortson also because he offers you the versatility of being able to play wide receiver and tight end.
I think that's something that we would have to consider too, because I do think there is some credibility to Reid saying he has played receiver, tight end, back to receiver, back to tight end. So I think that there is something there to take into consideration that maybe they do see him as being able to play both because he's not truly to the full weight of what a tight end should be. He still is kind of in that tweener between tight end and receiver. So I think there is a chance if he does make this. I would not be surprised to see him lined up outside at times.
Yeah.
Well, one more question I want to ask you guys before we kind of get into some matchups and questions from mailbag fans. I know 2018 2019, before the 2019 season, there was a player in the game that was still playing in the last preseason game that shouldn't have been out there, and it's like, what the heck? Why is this guy still playing in the game? Because you think, it's like a veteran that shouldn't be out there. Like I remember 2019 Green Bay Packers last preseason game, Reggie Ragland was playing deep into the fourth quarter of the last preseason game, and everyone thought, oh man, is Ragland getting cut? Because he should not be out there this late into preseason. Do you guys think we'll see anyone out there that will surprise us, that it'll appear that they're fighting for a roster spot?
I think Nick Bolton might play 3.5, maybe the entire game. I would not be surprised if Nick Bolton played the entire.
Now, when you say that, do you just think he's
not getting cut? He's not getting cut.
Yeah, it'll just be surprising to see him play.
Yeah.
Mine's gonna be more in the secondary, like Boodles and Bo Peep Keys and Devin Key and those types of guys. I think you're gonna see a lot more significance from the defense because I think those guys are actually truly playing for spots. Where I think I would almost say that Fortson and Fountain probably are a little bit more ahead of a Key, where if they had to come down to it and decide whether they were going to keep Fortson or Key or Fountain or Key, I think that's where they would take the offensive before the defensive. So I think some of those guys you're going to see out there a little bit much longer. And the reason is because they truly are fighting for a spot.
I was just thinking more veteran types that we weren't sure. But I will say, and I'm rosters for that really. I bet you we're still going to see Juan Thornhill out there very late into the game.
Well, and like they said too, man. I mean, they truly came out and said that they want to give him the rep. So
yeah,
I'm all for that. If he needs it to be, to be that guy, then get him.
Yeah, I'm a big Juan Thornhill guy. So the more reps, the better, I guess. As long as he doesn't get hurt.
No, it's just an interesting question I wanted to ask. But specific matchups, what do we think is going to be some interesting matchups in this game? Is it going to be a Bashaud Breeland revenge game?
Yes. No. Against Tyreek Hill. They've already gone at it on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah, I saw that earlier.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's interesting.
I mean, in a friendly way, obviously, but Breeland has been eating in preseason from what I've seen. So I'm still upset we didn't bring him back because I think he's a rock solid veteran that is worth
He's better
keeping.
than Charvarius Ward.
Yeah,
he is.
He is. I agree.
This is, and I'm kind of going a little bit back. If a good cornerback is cut from a team, I would not be surprised if we find a way to go get them because it's like we don't like to spend too much money on that position, but if a decent one is cut and they want to come play for a contender, I could see them going and signing them and then potentially Ward being a backup as a possibility.
But would a really good cornerback even get cut this late? I mean,
I think so. Yeah, I think cornerback
is still out there.
I think a cornerback is a position that I think you always see at least a couple guys that can still play become available. Like, who's a good example? Like, I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember specific examples of guys who did get released that can still play. But I do think there's a couple names out there that we're not thinking of that might be able to be serviceable.
Any chance Stefon Gilmore finds his way to the free agent market?
Goodness gracious, that would be insane. He'd also want like $18 million a year, but maybe more.
Well, if he gets released, he'll likely be playing for a much smaller number because of I'm not sure how much the Patriots still owe him, but I would be surprised by that one. But hey, maybe there's another Brett V special out there, someone that we aren't thinking of that's more on the younger side, maybe still on that rookie deal that just got beat out by someone else elsewhere. And Veach is like, hey, this guy was high on our draft board back in the day, so let's bring him in and see what he's got.
Maybe you pull a trade where you send, like the Rams traded for Sony Michel. Maybe you trade Darwin Thompson or a couple other guys in a package deal for someone. Kind of a win-win, I guess.
Because hear me out. Hear me out. Jalen Mills coming over from the Philadelphia Eagles, ready to roll. They just traded for Wade, who was a first-round pick, or not first-round, but a draft pick this year, to the Baltimore Ravens, who then got traded to the Patriots today. That's two pretty decent corners that could not necessarily equal to what Gilmore's doing, but can be there at a much cheaper cost. And then obviously you have J.C. Jackson and Jonathan Jones there. I'm wondering if Gilmore might get cut.
J.C. Jackson's a baller. I mean, he's a baller.
I would be floored if they let go of Stefon Gilmore, just because I think they're still wanting to see where they can go this season.
It's Bill Belichick, Josh.
You are right, but
I just rate him for something.
Yeah, I don't see them doing that.
That's my point. Is like I don't think it's necessarily a cut. I think it would be a trade. And who's to say maybe we end up sending Andrew Wiley for Stefon Gilmore and maybe a draft pick?
Oh, it'd be like a first-round draft pick. It'd be.
Nah, you wouldn't. Gilmore wouldn't require first. Yeah, you honestly like. You have to go back and look with some of these other guys that you think would require a first rounder or going for. Like we just saw Julio get traded for like a second and a third rounder or whatever
Julio
it was.
Jones is getting paid the entire salary of Atlanta. Like literally Atlanta's entire payroll.
Well, Gilmore's still making a pretty penny too. Remember we didn't. It's more so going to be the younger guys that are going to require those first round picks, like a Minkah Fitzpatrick type from a couple years ago. You're not going to see Stefon Gilmore fish a first round pick.
I think the highest would be like a third.
Yeah, really? I agree.
Yeah, I think more or less the fourth.
Second, probably. Because Stefon Gilmore, I don't think he's as good as everyone says he is, but he's probably a top 5 to 7 cornerback in the league.
Well, we're getting way too deep into Stefon Gilmore trade talk, so I want to shift the focus back to this game against the Vikings. Get excited, guys. It's the last week of preseason.
I am pumped.
What other matchups are we excited to see? Well, I know Lucas, he's mentioned it time and time again that these defensive backs are going to be going up against a lot of talented receivers this year, and the Vikings, we're going to be seeing them this week, and they are certainly a team that have a lot of talented pass-catching options, including Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. So it'll be a true test. And, hey, Mike Hughes is going to be going up against his former team.
You know who as crazy as this sounds, I'm excited to see for the Vikings, Kellen Mond. I don't know if you guys know who that is.
Yeah, of course I do.
Kellen Mond is going to be Dede Westbrook is actually a Minnesota Viking now. So there's some decent offensive players that are going to be able to really go against this Kansas City Chiefs defense. This defense also has Pat Pete now. So, Rashad Breeland, Patrick Peterson, Peterson's getting a little bit older, but I mean, holy smokes, that's pretty solid right there with Xavier Woods and Harrison Smith. Harrison Smith being one of the top strong safeties in the NFL. And then they go out and they just re-signed what's his name from the Cowboys yesterday. And he had to go apologize to Kirk Cousins for his bashing.
Everson Griffin.
Everson Griffins, yeah. So
yeah, that's really quick. That's actually a perfect segue. I think the matchup to watch is our offensive line versus the Vikings pass rush. Because the Vikings don't have a pass rush that's going to wow you, but like Everson Griffin, Daniel Hunter, I believe, is still a member of the Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
I think they've got some good internal pressure too. So I want to see how this Chiefs offensive line holds up.
They drafted Troy Dye out of Oregon.
What round?
I can't remember what round. Let me look. He was it doesn't say.
He was what?
Fourth round pick, 132.
Okay.
Second season.
I remember a lot of Chiefs fans were looking at him, but to me, he was because he's the linebacker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a little bit too much of a tweener for me, but he's still a talented player. I will be interested to see Chiefs, their passing attack, and Michael, like you said, their offensive line against the Vikings defensive line, because no matter really the opponent, I want to see this Chiefs offensive line just continue to work together and get those reps in together, no matter really who the competition is. But I will be interested as well to see these receivers versus the Vikings secondary. And Patrick Peterson, man, that guy was in trade rumors for the Chiefs for how long?
Every year since 2018 on. Maybe even a little bit before then.
I was on it every time. I love Patrick Peterson, man. I think great leader, really was a great corner. I mean, still probably going to be that good corner. And yeah, man, I was on it every time. I think I was more on the Jalen Ramsey one, though. You remember the...
Oh, man. Yeah, no, this is hilarious. I love telling the story every time. I remember when Jalen Ramsey requested that trade and Chiefs fans were all over Twitter talking about Jalen Ramsey, and I was like, yeah, I like Jalen Ramsey, but I wouldn't give up 2 first-round picks. It's just, that's too much. And then we played that game against the Detroit Lions where Matthew Stafford picked us apart and Charvarius Ward was getting bullied by Kenny Galladay. And I'm like, I will give up 3 firsts for Jalen Ramsey right now.
Yeah, man. It got to that point. I always like the tweets where they're like, man, I just saw Jalen Ramsey at the gates. And you're like, I was like, the first time I saw that, I was like, really?
I was on Twitter for hours on end during the Jalen Ramsey saga, dude. I wanted him so bad.
I mean, he's playing out that. I mean, he truly is a lockdown corner.
Well, and I remember too, and Terez Paylor, rest in peace to Terez Paylor, a Kansas City legend. I remember he would tweet, from what I'm told, the Chiefs are interested in Jalen Ramsey, but right now the price is too high or something. And then ever since he had tweeted that, every single thing he tweeted, Chiefs fans were in Terez Paylor's mentions. Do you have a Jalen Ramsey update? Do you have a Jalen Ramsey update? Are the Chiefs trading for Jalen Ramsey? And it's like, geez, guys, just lay off. But yeah, that was a crazy time.
Yeah, love it. That's how it was with LeVeon Bell too. I mean, I just saw him at the Quick Trip down on Main, and it's like good.
I do remember on Twitter when Le'Veon Bell was a free agent, some kid claimed to have seen Le'Veon Bell in public and took a picture with him in Miami, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm signing with the Dolphins." And then, like, in a couple hours later, he signed with the Chiefs. It's like, well, that was a load of.
Well, there's actually a picture of him and Veach at like a barbecue restaurant.
Oh, is there really?
Yeah. So like that's where I think a lot of it starts stemming from. It's like now every time the rumor is, it's like, oh, I saw him here and whatever. But yeah, there's actually a picture of Brett Veach and he's sitting across from him at, I can't remember what restaurant it was though.
Probably.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember when Kelvin Benjamin, the Chiefs brought in Kelvin Benjamin. Someone had tweeted that they had just seen him walk into a barbecue place. I think it was like
And ate
Joe's
the entire
or
supply. Is that what he
yeah.
did?
Kelvin Benjamin didn't come out.
Kelvin Benjamin is still in that barbecue place to this day. Like, there's a good chance.
They said he struggled the day that the Giants were just going through like high school football practice where they were just running gassers. They said Benjamin basically was like, F this and like quit.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Gosh, we're talking about all kinds of different stuff.
We're talking about everything but what we probably should be talking about.
I know, but it's fun.
Yeah, it is.
Because really all there is to talk about for this game is everything we've said, plus Mike Hughes and Bashaud Breeland revenge game.
It's hard to get so like pumped up for a preseason. I mean, this is the biggest preseason game, but like, look out for the trenches on both sides, offense, defense, the corners, as we talked about. Who's going to guard the Vikings receivers and Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen? I mean, that's basically all we can really say. But by the way, Justin Jefferson, I don't know if there's been a trade that has worked out better than the Stefon Diggs, I guess Justin Jefferson didn't get traded by the Bills, but with that draft pick they got for Stefon Diggs,
it's a classic win-win trade for both sides.
Yeah. And Jefferson's going to be a top 5 receiver probably at one point. So
I'd be interested to see in this game how the Chiefs handle Dalvin Cook.
Wow, yeah.
Because if he plays significant amounts, that's a big question people have for Chris Jones playing D-end is, can he contain the run?
Well, I always said it too. You got to go back to 2019 when Jones played defensive end against the Vikings, and Dalvin Cook was the leading rusher in the NFL coming into that game. And Chris Jones, actually, his ability to shed blocks on the edge and make a tackle on the ball carrier helped out our run defense, because we held Dalvin Cook to 70 yards in that game. And I always go back to that when talking about maximizing Chris Jones's potential run defense on the edge. That's something you have to consider, is that the last time these two teams played, Dalvin Cook was the leading rusher coming into that game, and the Chiefs had a bottom 5 run defense. They moved Chris Jones out on the edge and then hold him to 70 yards.
Yep. Yeah. You want to get to mailbag?
Yeah, we only got a couple questions and we're almost at an hour, so I'll go ahead and ask these two. And we do have a really good one. Now, this first one, it's from Marlin Suddington. He asks, who's going to have...
GOAT. I know he's watching this. Marlin's the GOAT. Continue.
He's everywhere. He asks, who's going to have a breakout season? I mean, there's plenty of different answers to this question, but I guess who's your favorite breakout candidate on the Chiefs? Lucas, you want to go first?
I want to go last because I want to see your guys' faces.
All right.
You're putting me on
Hey,
the
and
spot
make sure,
here.
hey, and then let's pick an offense and defensive player.
All right, I'll go first then. I'll go first. Offense, I will go McCole Hardman because I want it to happen. But defense, I'm going to go with Willie Gay. And I think Willie Gay has the biggest room for improvement probably of all the rookies from last year. So
I'm gonna say for my offensive player, I'm gonna go with Byron Pringle. I think he's gonna take a much larger role than we kind of initially expected. And then there's two candidates for my defensive my defensive player of the year. I'm going to go with, there's two options. The first one's Jarron Reed. I think he's going to be much bigger than people let on to be. And then Lucas's dude, Mike Dana. I think Mike Dana could show out this year, given the fact that Taco Charlton's no longer on this defensive end group. So it's Mike Dana and Joshua Kando. I guess Tershawn Wharton, like a couple other guys like that, but it's basically his job to lose. So I think we could see a lot of Mike Dana this year.
Yeah, that's a good one.
My pick was gonna be Darwin Thompson, but no, I'm kidding. It's gonna
That's funny because I was thinking that. I was like, Lucas has been really apologetic for Darwin Thompson.
Yeah.
I wonder if he goes ahead and picks Thompson as his breakout player.
I have him on fantasy in a very deep 16-team league, and I'm hoping that he just does something. But my pick is actually Demarcus Robinson.
Wow.
I think Demarcus actually balls out this year and actually goes for almost 1,000.
Really?
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
You're going to take DeMarcus's word that he's going to have a 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown year?
I got a feeling just because I think he's playing for much bigger things this year. I think he understands that they tried to go get Juju, and the same goes for Mecole. I think that they realize they're not satisfied as an organization. They wanted Juju. They can say it all they want. I think they tried to get Julio and make it work, and it just didn't work out. So I think that they've realized that, and I think DeMarcus is trying to either play for a contract on this team or is playing for somebody else. So I definitely think DeMarcus balls out.
Wow. I changed my pick. Oh, did you go for defense yet?
No, not yet. My breakout is on defense is going to be Ben Niemann.
What?
Where the hell are you getting these players?
I'm going Ben Niemann. I think Ben Niemann has, and I don't think it's going to be overly just crazy, but I think he's going to have a much more surprising year than he has in years past.
You think he's going to make the jump to being a competent linebacker?
I wouldn't say fully, but I'm going to say enough to where it's
we're not coming on here after games and saying, "Oh my God, get Ben Niemann off the team."
I think he'll make some plays similar to how Dan Sorensen revives himself at times. There's certain times where you're like, "What in the hell is Dan Sorensen doing?" And then he makes that the fake punt and just stops them before the first down type of plays. I think Ben Niemann might step up and do that this year.
Really quickly, I wanted to change my offensive player of the year. I even said this in a video. I think because you said Mecole Hardman was a pick that I thought about, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to ball this year. I kind of wanted to go with somebody else, but I kind of forgot about Clyde to begin with. Clyde's going to have $1,700 all-purpose yards this year. Maybe more. It's gonna be the Clyde show. I think that they're gonna give him a lot of opportunities.
I was gonna pick Anthony Gordon, but he's no longer on this team.
I'll just say Chad anyway. You're at it too.
Yeah, anytime, man.
All right. Well, we got one more question here, and this is a really good question. Hydra asks, "Who will have a better career? Willie Gay or Nick Bolton?" Who wants to go first?
Me, Willie Gay.
What's your reasoning?
Just a freak. I think that he just an incredible linebacker. I think he has and I'm not saying Nick Bolton doesn't, but I think Willie Gay has something that Bolton will not have in that size. And I think for his speed and ability to cover, which has been a struggle piece for Nick Bolton. Not that saying he can't get better, because I don't want to say that. I don't want people to think I'm negative on Bolton, because I love Bolton.
Yeah.
I just think Willie Gay will have a much better career in the long run.
I want to go before Michael goes because I want to get this out, but I'm going to say Nick Bolton
because he loves Missouri.
One, because I'm biased, but secondly, and I love Willie Gay's athletic profile. But once he loses that and he starts aging and he's not as athletic as he once was, what is he going to have? Because Nick Bolton is such a smart player that I think he's always going to be able to land a job because of that. He's gonna know where to be. I think he's going to have a long career because of his mental approach to the game. And I'm not saying Willie Gay can't get there, but I think Nick Bolton is always going to be ahead of Willie Gay in that department. And also, I am a little bit worried. I never really wanted to say it. I am a little bit worried about Willie Gay's durability thus far into his career. And that's something that could derail him. I hope that's not the case, but I am a tad bit concerned with a high ankle sprain and a torn meniscus now to this point. I believe he also dealt with like a concussion or some point at last year. I could be wrong, but I am a little bit worried about that.
Concussion.
Yes,
But he didn't play a lot in college.
that's true too. But I do think Nick Bolton has the better longevity, maybe. I guess so. Okay, well, it depends on what, like, do I think Bolton ends his career with better stats than Gay? I think that one could go either way, but I think Bolton's going to have the longer career, and he's probably going to be able to be a starting NFL linebacker for a longer time. But
Michael, go ahead, because I want to ask you a comparison afterwards.
I think it's a tough one because I can kind of see both sides, and I'm one of the biggest Willie Gay fans around. Like I am huge on Willie Gay, but like I also kind of wonder, like, you know, it's usually the players like the Nick Boltons of the world that aren't gonna just throw you away or catch you off guard with their athleticism, but they know how to play this game. They know how to play football, and he was probably told from the beginning of high school that you're not big enough, you're not this, you're not that, you're not that. And he's just balled out at every level. I mean, he's had to get to this point. So I think that it's kind of tough to say because Willie Gay's athleticism is something that Nick Bolton will never be able to do. But at the same time, I think that Nick Bolton's ability to read the defense, make changes, he's eventually going to be the starting middle linebacker on this team. And he's going to be the signal caller of the defense. When Anthony Hitchens is gone, that's Nick Bolton's job. And I think that I can almost see Nick Bolton becoming a guy that racks up and leads the team in tackles almost every. I mean, I would not be surprised if Nick Bolton is around every single tackle. I would not be surprised. So it's kind of like, where are you necessarily going with, like, who's going to have a better career? I think we look back at Willie Gay saying he had a flashier career. I mean, I think that he'll have more highlight plays, but Nick Bolton's the dude that's going to do the dirty work, and he's going to do a lot of stuff that goes underappreciated and undernoticed. But I could see Nick Bolton being a really, really good linebacker too. So I guess that really didn't answer the question, but I'm really torn, honestly.
Man, it's tough. I mean, I think both of them are going to be special. I think it's going to be amazing to see Willie take that next step again, even in the next year, and then to know that Bolton is right there in Willie's shoes as he was taking that second step to his next year. I mean, both those dudes can fly. It's just the cover ability for Nick Bolton has been somewhat suspect, but I think that can be obviously obtained and worked on.
Was Justin Houston any good in coverage? No.
I have a video of that I will never delete because of Bob Sutton.
Like, he wasn't good in coverage, and he's a Chiefs legend. I mean, obviously his ability to get to the quarterback is something that we've not really seen, but like, I do think that Nick Bolton they're just two completely different players that play almost the same position. You know what I mean? Like, they both specialize in doing completely different things.
I don't know. I guess it depends on what you value more too. Like, I think, like you said, Willie Gay is going to be that better cover guy. He's probably going to cover a lot more running backs out of the backfield. He's probably going to be covering in the slot a little bit more than Bolton, but Bolton's going to be a guy that just racks up a ton of tackles. He's going to help out the run defense tremendously. He's going to do all that stuff. So I guess it just kind of depends on which one you might value more too.
Yeah. Like, my gut instinct is to say Willie Gay, because I feel like I've kind of been programmed by myself to do that because I'm a huge Willie Gay dude. So I think it's going to be close. We're going to have to wait and see because, like, I think that we'll give him a couple more. I mean, this is kind of Willie Gay's time to shine. Nick Bolton could still use the year to develop and at least get some NFL experience. But I think Willie Gay is the guy that I'm going to roll with now. But I would definitely not be surprised if Nick Bolton surpasses him.
My comparison is going to be for Willie Gay is going to be Derek Johnson.
Yeah, that was his comp coming out of college too.
And I 100% believe that that's going to be the case because I think he has that ability. And I mean, DJ, one thing that goes down in history of DJ was that smack he put on Marcus Mariota. I mean,
which was a fumble, by the way.
Yeah, it was. So
Derek Johnson for the Chiefs. I'll never forget that. Man.
We don't talk about that game, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, I brought up some painful memories.
I can't yell because my son's asleep above me, but I still can't fathom when Mariota rolled out in that playoff game, throws the ball, it's deflected by whoever, he catches it and scored a touchdown.
I want to say it was Conley. I could be wrong, but I feel like it went off Conley, didn't it?
It went off Darrell Revis.
Defense. Never mind. I don't know why I said that at all.
I don't know why I want to say Dan Sorensen because I don't think it was. Maybe it might have been Watts possibly, but it was somebody like that.
It was off Darrell Revis. Darrell Revis tried to bat the pass down, and it went back into the hands of Mariota.
Yeah, and that was like what? Yeah, incredible moment.
All right, let's move on. I don't want to talk about this game anymore.
Speaking of that, they are on our schedule.
We're beating them. Enough said. No, actually, that's actually gonna be a good game.
I don't know, man. The Titans have I'm a huge fan of Mike Vrabel. I think he is a damn good coach, and he really, they're going to be lethal. I do. Now, I think their defense is a lot more suspect now, but their offense is going to be tough to deal with this.
They're going to be the 2018 Chiefs. All offense, no defense. All gas, no brakes.
I kind of like. I get it, and I'm not saying, I'm not saying they're going to beat the Chiefs because I believe the Chiefs win. But when you look at their defense too, man, like it's not as bad as I feel like the Chiefs defense was then.
That was historically bad, that Chiefs defense. We gotta remember.
Because they have guys still on their roster. I mean, their linebackers are absolutely disgusting. Like Rashaan Evans is still there. They went out and signed Bud Dupree. They go out and get corners like Janoris Jenkins. Amani Hooker is coming over. I mean, Harold Landry is there. I mean, they have some guys. Jeffrey Simmons is there. So they have some guys on their team.
To be fair, Janoris Jenkins is 57 years old. So
still balling. Kevin Beard's still there.
They'll be a interesting team. I mean, their offense is going to give us problems, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
But Pat's dropping 57 on that defense. I can't see him not doing that. So
I mean, they have an incredible. So that's the thing. It's I was kind of having this discussion today, and I know we probably are getting towards the end, but yeah, the Titans are definitely going to have the ability now to determine if the team they're playing is very good at rushing defense or passing defense, and then they're going to be able to go out there and decide, okay, we're going to run the ball today. Sorry, I'm dying.
We've had technical difficulties from Lucas and Josh, and Lucas is just going to die on us. That's just kind of how the pod works.
R.I.P.
Yeah, seriously.
But I think that they're going to be able to depict and determine what we're going to do this week just based on because they have the ability to. I mean, their receiving core is Josh Reynolds, Julio Jones, and A.J. Brown. That's disgusting.
Proceeds to die. I don't know. That's all, Dad. Do you have anything else?
Nah, I mean, we've gone off on so many different directions this podcast. It's probably good we don't go down yet another rabbit hole, but yeah, no, any
speaking of rabbit holes.
No, we're done. Michael, anything else from you?
Nope, that'll do it.
Damn it.
Right.
Dave Tobe.
All right. Well, all that being said, make sure you subscribe to the Kingdom Crew podcast. You can check us out on all platforms, including here on YouTube. If you're watching the video version, make sure you follow me, Josh Fan, on YouTube. Subscribe to Lucas Murphy, the Beat of KC, and subscribe to Michael Darcy, the KC Sports Report, here on YouTube. And you can also find our Twitters in the description. But all that being said, we will catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Man, we gotta go to